hospital I've ever worked in, though, was that the case. Hinged instruments should be opened. Hinged instruments should never be stored in a locked position. Hinged instruments should only be in a locked position when they're being used. Okay. Otherwise, especially when they're dirty and they need to be cleaned, they should be left opened through the cleaning process, but even at the beginning of the cleaning process and during transportation. So there's going to be a good picture of why that is, and that's in another chapter, sorry. Okay, so let me break it to you this way. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to pause the recording. I'll be right back. Okay, this is a needle holder. Can you see it against my desert background? I'm sorry. Okay, so this needle holder. Let's say that it was used and it's not bloody. It has to be. This is locked, unlocked. In the open position, they should take a cloth that has water, does not have saline, and they should wipe off all of the blood. And then they should lay it down in a container or some kind of pan. Look, it's laying down. Okay. And then spray it with some enzymatic prep, which is designed for this purpose. What they should not do is they should not toss it into a container full of water or any other liquid. This is bad. You should not be transporting containers of water, and you should not be soaking instruments long term in a container of water. And I say long term because they don't know how long that instrument's going to sit in there. What if you know, there's only one person on duty and they have things to do on the other side, and that instrument could be sitting in that water for several hours. Opened, wiped, sprayed with some enzymes, or alternatively, they can take a cloth, put it in clean water, wring out the water, and throw the cloth over the used instruments so that they don't dry out. And this, although it doesn't eliminate the growth of biofilm, it does make the cleaning process go easier. And I'm not just concerned about how easy the cleaning process is for you because I want your job to be easy. I'm concerned about things getting missed. Dried blood is much more difficult to remove than moist gross soil. Okay. Items should be kept together. If it belongs in, you know, tray X, it should be sent down with tray X, in tray X. If there are things that need to be disassembled for pre-cleaning, then they should be disassembled but also kept together. Keep instruments moist. Okay, so look at the picture on the bottom of page 123. Oh my gosh, look at all that blood. I wish the picture was bigger and brighter. See, this is the kind of crime scene I'm used to seeing. Every inch of every instrument here that was used is covered with blood completely. Many items in these trays are very difficult to wipe clean. So, but there are other ways to get around it. They could literally have a pan full of sterile water sitting on the field where they could rinse the instruments in, and that would be better than just letting the blood dry. Okay, fluids should be emptied from containers because we don't want to transport containers full of fluids throughout the hospital. If they should fall over and start spilling out of the bottom of the transport cart, that's bad. But also it's bad when they just sort of slip and go up toward the door, and then when the tech and decontam opens the door, they get shoes full of bloody water. Not good. Do I sound like that's happened to me before? Okay, third-party reprocessing items. Third-party reprocessing are things that would be garbage except for the fact that a company, an outside company, has gone through certain hoops with the Food and Drug Administration and gotten approval to clean and re-sterilize those items and get them safe for patient use for a second life. There are a lot of disposable items, single-use items, that can be reused if it's done by a company who's authorized by the Food and Drug Administration. And so CJD. If reusable items were used during a case that has CJD, infection control must be notified and sterile processing must be notified. There are certain specific protocols that must be followed. These are not like routine bloody instruments. These are special in that they now have something on them that is very, very, very hard to kill. Okay, so the user department should notify us, CS, if they are aware that something needs to be repaired or sharpened or whatever. Although it is our job to look for these kind of things, we're just human, and they should not assume, hey, those people who are just human are going to find it, because we don't always find it. So they should mark it, tag it, like in the picture. It says it needs sharpening on that scissors. Good. If something needs to be turned over or turned around, same thing. They, even though we should be aware of this, if we're a department that's being run correctly and people are on top of things and you have good people, smart people in positions of leadership, then we will already know what needs to be turned over or turned around. But also, the user department should notify us that this particular item needs to be turned over or turned around. That way we can expedite it through the process, because turnover, turnaround means that something's going to be needed again on the same day. So whereas most of the instruments that come through, we don't know when they'll be needed again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. But if, for example, we have 3 craniotomy cases scheduled today, but we only have 2 craniotomy sets, that first one needs to be turned around quickly. Okay, transport of soiled items. I talked about this a little bit ago. They should be transported in some kind of closable cart or container. And look at the picture on page 125. That's a precarious situation. That's a lot of money just like stacked, almost like a Jenga game about to go bad. And then it shows a correctly loaded cart. I just wish that they had just taken and rearranged everything in an incorrectly loaded cart. The one that says correctly loaded cart just says like 4 things in it. Anyways, the things in that top cart, they are going to topple when you hit a little imperfection on the floor pushing that cart. And then when the door opens, they're going to land on the tech's foot. Okay. You should know that transporting contaminated items should be kept physically separate from transporting of clean and sterile items. You should never transport clean and or sterile in the same cart at the same time as contaminated. So what is contaminated? Contaminated is anything that was sent out to be used, whether it was used or not. When it's going to be returned to sterile processing, it will come to the decontamination room. Okay, soil pickup grounds on page 126. So often it is up to us. Okay, so let me see. The way it works is the OR often will take the carts full of instruments that they use. They'll put the instruments back in the same cart it was sent up in. They'll put it on the dirty elevator. They'll push the button to send it to our floor, and then we get it. But not the entire hospital is going to do that. So the ER is not going to always bring down the thoracotomy trays that they use. Labor and delivery is not going to bring down the vaginal delivery sets that they use. So we have to have routine scheduled pickups to make sure that we're going to bring these things back, that they're not sitting there for an extended period of time with biofilms forming on them, and so that we can have them, clean them, re-sterilize them, and return them to the user department. So if we fail to do that, then we're going to end up with equipment shortages. Everything that's used is to be considered contaminated. But I want to add to that, okay? Because consider everything that was sent out for patient care to be contaminated. That way you don't have to look at it and say, gee, I don't know if they used this or not. It doesn't matter if they used it. We assume they used it. Okay. Off-site processing. Sometimes it's necessary to send things to other facilities to have them processed. And when that happens, there's a government agency called the U.S. Department of Transportation that has guidelines that are applicable to the transportation of things that are biohazardous. So this does not apply to sterile items or clean items. They're not a risk to the public. The guidelines set forth by the Department of Transportation are about protecting the public and the drivers from biohazards. And even the drivers of these vehicles should be educated about the dangers associated with biohazardous items. That's it. That's the entire chapter. I like that. You can talk now, Denise.